So I will officially say welcome everyone to the Chamber of Commerce's Get the Most Out of the Stroll presentation webinar. I'm Todd Abbott. I'll be moderating the event tonight. So this webinar is designed to provide you with tips and tricks to help your business get the most out of the event, answer questions you might have, there's always questions, and importantly, to listen to suggestions you might have about things that you would like to see at the stroll or about any part of this process. We would certainly appreciate hearing from you. Now, before we start, there are a couple instructions. First off, this is a webinar, so you'll need to raise your hand if you have a comment or wish to ask a question. I'll be moderating. I'll try to recognize you at the time that it seems appropriate for you to speak. The chat box is active. You can see I've already posted a few links there. Feel free to send a message to us or to everyone. Keep it polite, ideally. We're also using the Q&A box. So if something comes to you, whether maybe it's not pertaining to what Alan's talking about at the moment or something, add it there, and then we'll get to it when it seems appropriate. And we'll be sure to answer all your questions. So I would also say this webinar has been recorded. It'll take me a few days to kind of process it. I like to index each section. So this will be available on the Chamber and the SAA websites next week. So without further ado, I want to introduce the man who needs no introduction, but insists on one anyway. The man who's been the producer and driving force of the stroll for 10 years and is so incredibly busy right now, we're very lucky to have him. So I'd like to introduce Alan Cain, Executive Director of the Solano Albany Stroll and Solano Association and producer of the stroll, and take it away, Alan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Todd. And thank you to the Albany Chamber of Commerce for this annual opportunity. I think these workshops are great. I think that it's our 5th or 6th year in a row now, so that's just exciting to do these. And they're very engaging, of course, with our guests and participants of the event. I do have a quick bit of housekeeping, which of course is to mention my bosses, my board of directors, who right now consists of a real estate agent, in case you're looking for a home. Her name's Jennifer Hanson Romero. She is with the Winkler Real Estate Group, and she's our volunteer president. Our volunteer vice president, Jason Bellevue, is also in the realty mortgage industry with RAF Investment Services, in case you need him as well. Janelle Gary is an Albany resident and also sitting on the current city council for the city of Albany. Peggy Smith and Richard Smith, both owners of the Allstate Insurance Agency on Solano Avenue and a few other agencies throughout the Bay Area. Todd Abbott, who's also on this call, is Full Orbit Web and Marketing. If you have any marketing or web needs, I would suggest Todd on this call. And of course, my name is Alan Cain. I'm the full-time paid executive director of this association. I do nothing other than manage the association and work with the merchants on Solano Avenue, the business owners on Solano Avenue, the organizations on Solano Avenue, and it's a full-time job, and even producing the stroll is a full-time job. We begin working on it probably about a month after it ends, so while the ideas are fresh in our minds. Speaking of housekeeping, I do, of course, want to mention the sponsors of the stroll because they pay the bills. It's a quick list. It's the city of Albany. It's the city of Berkeley, Albany Subaru, Mechanics Bank, Pivot Point Commuter Hub, Waste Management, and a special shout out to Abrams Claghorn Gallery. I also want to say that, the cities have always supported the Solano Stroll, but for the 2022 event in particular, we have to give thanks to the Albany and Berkeley City Council specifically, who really pushed the stroll through the processes that it needed to go through in terms of the funding and the logistics. And so we do owe the city councils, both in the city of Berkeley and the city of Albany, a lot of thank you. Yes, we cannot do it without, we can't do it in Albany without Berkeley, and we can't do it in Berkeley without Albany. So having the blessing of both cities was vital, and we wouldn't have got that blessing if it was not for the city councils that are currently sitting. So what are we talking about, the Solano Avenue Stroll? I'm going to have fun real quick. I noticed that both of my colleagues have disappeared off the screen. So I'm going to ask one of them to appear on the screen eventually.
I'm busy answering questions and things. So
we're going to engage Jennifer, and we're going to make this interesting. So I have in my hand what is purportedly a normal deck of cards. Of course, it's just a regular deck of cards that you would get off of a casino floor in Vegas. They're all, I guess I'm doing a decent job of showing what they are. And Todd, I just want you to tell me when to, or well, Jennifer, tell me when to stop the cards.
Stop.
Okay. I'm going to try to keep that card in view the whole time. I'm going to take this top card. Beautiful. King of clubs. Wow. So on the wall behind me is a sign that says Solano Avenue. The AVE is covered up with a piece of paper. And I made a prediction earlier what card Jennifer would choose. And wouldn't it be amazing if that paper had the King of clubs on it? Let's see. Dated today. Thank you so much for the prediction.
Hey, I just want to jump in and say you may have forgotten a board member. I think maybe Robert Abrams was not. Oh, I'm sorry. I think.
What?
Robbie.
Was Robert? Did you intend? You intended to mention Robert Abrams, correct?
I might not have. So Robert
But you
Abrams
meant
from the
to.
Abrams Flag Art Gallery. But I was also focused on mentioning him as part of the sponsor group for what is technically Strollish, but we'll talk about that later. So the reason why I did that trick, it is a trick. I'm not a magician. It was a trick. And I'm not a hobbyist. I don't proclaim to be professional at this, but I did capture your attention for a good 45 seconds. And the lesson here is, how are we as a group of people who are on Solano Avenue participating in the stroll going to capture people's attention? And I don't suggest you stand out in the middle of the street doing card tricks, although it clearly works. But that's what we're going to talk about tonight, really, is how to capture people's attention, how to maximize the 7 hours that you'll be at the event, and more. So let's go ahead and proceed. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to refer to a document that is online that I think Todd linked already. And I'm going to go over it paragraph by paragraph. I know that having people read to you what's on a screen can sometimes be triggering if you're ever a college student, but I'm going to kind of go over it as fast as I can. And of course, I'm going to have some input in the middle of some of these paragraphs. And so I'm just going to start off right now, if that's okay. So the Solano Avenue Stroll began in 1974 and is now produced by the Solano Avenue Merchants Association. I don't like the word merchants. A group comprised of 15 volunteers who are business owners on or near Solano Avenue. Average attendance reaches 250 to 300,000 people. We'll talk about that number in just a moment. This free community event is a closed street festival that spans 26 blocks, et cetera, et cetera. So the number that we claim is a 250,000 to 300,000 people in attendance. It is a rotated number. Street capacity is roughly 100,000 people. And so if you figure no one stays the whole day, no one gets there early and stays the whole day, there's a rotation of people. We have those estimates. What we learned during the pandemic is if you have an event that is of this scale, it is very challenging to restart the size of this event. And so we really kind of changed some of our marketing and changed some of our messaging to indicate 100,000 people. If you go back to those wonderful colored tiers that we had in the state of California, you will find that events that involved over 100,000 people were the very last to come online. And so we're trying to look at our numbers. I don't know anything about what the attendance will be this year. Maybe you folks on this call can tell me. So the demographics, the Solano Stroll is unique in many respects, and one of them is that the 26 block long festival spans 2 separate cities, Albany and Berkeley, the 2 cities having differing demographics. So Albany is primarily younger families with multiple children, and Berkeley has in the past a significant number of older / retired residents, but even that demographic is also changing. And remember, this document is from 2012. And so, you know, like most communities, they are evolving as time goes. So the crowd is not only diverse culturally, but more importantly, the sheer magnitude of the event. You're going to find a vast diversity of reasons why people come to the stroll, and it's important to understand your potential customers. So I guess what I'm trying to say there in a nutshell is if you're selling senior services and there's a group of college students walking by, they may not be your potential customers. They may have grandparents at home. They could be potential customers, but are you going to focus all of your time wondering or appealing to that demographic when you're clearly not in the same category? So just pay attention to who your demographics are, right? So people on the street can be there for several reasons, from seeing a friend perform in a band or a dance troupe, or perhaps they're looking for an opportunity to volunteer for a community organization. We have almost 200 nonprofit organizations who attend the event. That number is about 100 now. Perhaps you've come to the Solano Stroll to adopt a pet, talk to a political candidate, get a great deal on a new car, or maybe you're a teenager there to meet up with friends. What is for certain is that not everyone is going to stop at your booth. In fact, a significant number of people walking by are not going to stop for reasons ranging from being late for a performance, or they're meeting a friend up the street, or they're rushing to catch the shuttle bus, or just trying to find the closest restroom. Restrooms, by the way, are just about every other block. They're not on Solano, they're on side streets about every other block. So all this suggests that your success at the event, however measured, is a numbers game. Out of this crowd of 100,000 diverse individuals, your target and your sales goals should be realistic, and the following items should be carefully considered. So let's just kind of go over it real quick. The diverse Bay Area weather. So California weather is considered to be pleasant in September. Oh, I'm sorry, it's considered to be pleasant, and September is no exception. It rains at the Solano Stroll about twice a decade, but the weather is usually awesome. We recommend a canopy if you're sunlight sensitive, but since the average temperature is in the mid 70s, it's not considered to be hot. Due to our proximity to San Francisco Bay, about a half-mile away, we experience an odd diversity of weather. The Solano Stroll day typically begins foggy and overcast, and then it breaks away into great weather in the midday or afternoon, and then gets windy much later in the day. We've heard that the event slows down around 4 o'clock. And I don't know why. I see it being quite active, but maybe once those winds kick up, people go into the restaurants or something. I don't know. So food vendors, you want to adjust your menus to serve warm beverages in the morning. And then later in the afternoon, you want to switch to, lemonade. Nonprofits, you're going to want to put paperweights all over your documents that you're distributing. We'll talk about that later. But just keep the varied weather in mind and consider how it may apply to you. And today was kind of a great example. It was really overcast, and now it's great, really sunny over here in El Cerrito. So it's a mile-long event with vendors on both sides. You may not see the same person twice, so close when you can. So closing means, selling those earrings or selling that hot dog or signing up a volunteer for the shore cleanup. It's all about doing it now. If you're selling something large, big paintings, furniture, people may be hesitant to buy those items, of course, and carry them around. So you would definitely want to consider things like home delivery if you live within, 10 miles, or, for the next 2 hours after the stroll, I'll be delivering everything that people buy, as you can offer free delivery. It's not that hard. And if you're selling large items, it could really be helpful to help you close that sale at the moment. If the situation is right, you may consider giving concessions when negotiating with someone who will be right back. So, we hear that all the time. We'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'll come, I buy things at the end of the day, so I don't have to carry them around. I've said those things. We hear it all the time. So the average festival, so we'll do what you can to make sure that people, close the deal on the spot. The average festival guest is money conscious, right? So people who attend the event are wise with their dollars. Yes, Albany is an affluent area. North Berkeley is an affluent area. And I would guess that the people in the area have money because they spend it wisely. All right, so along these lines, please consider this when pricing your goods, and always consider an option for the younger crowd, whether it's a less expensive line of earrings for that teenager on a budget, or perhaps a student discount at the food booths, or something else creative may be in order. We do not want the reputation of being too expensive to attend this event. And I will say, most, in my experience, when you have 2 children or 3 children that are all in the similar age group, it's very difficult to buy one thing for one child and not buy things for the remaining 2 children. And for that reason, having that $5 pair of earrings where someone could buy 3 pairs or 4 pairs, or having that lower cost item that would appeal to the family that has multiple family members is really important, because that's who's moving into this area. It's families. Really important. A crowd attracts a crowd. So an empty area keeps people away and keep traffic as high as possible in the area. Some ideas may include having the Sunday football game playing on the TV where everyone can see it. Of course, bowls of candy, preferably sugar-free, whatever the case is. And, anything for the kids to do, face painting, that kind of thing. And while the kids are doing one thing, the adults can be talking to you about your insurance services or that kind of stuff. We've seen people use water, of course, it gets hot later in the day, but we've seen people, have water jugs and all kinds of things to encourage people to stop at their spaces. But there's a lot of psychological reasons why you make sure your booth has high traffic at all times, even if it's your own people standing in front. I can't emphasize this enough. So we're going to talk about this. If you've ever been to San Francisco and driven past a nightclub, you will see that there's a line outside the nightclub. And most of the time, there's physical space inside the nightclub for you to participate in the dancing. But they prefer to have the line outside because that draws people in. In the same way as I hate to say this, but for the most part, when I go to a street festival or some sort of event at a county fair and people are trying to sell me stuff, I try to just keep a forward face. I try to not make eye contact with anyone. I keep my face down. I don't, if I'm interested in a product, maybe, I'll go back to it or something like that. And so with that kind of mentality, of course, everybody is essentially trying to avoid you to a small degree. I know that's probably not the best way of putting it, but you have to really encourage people to stop at your space. And one of the ways of doing that is by having people in front that are engaged with what you're doing. And people always wonder, what are they looking at? Right? That's how things go viral. That's how videos online go viral. What are they looking at? What's so great about this? And so it's always one thing when you walk by a nonprofit or someone representing their organization or business, and there's two people in the back and they're sitting down in the lawn chairs and they're on their phones chilling out, and it just causes people to continue walking for the most part. Everything I say is a generalization, right? Of course, people are going to stop at your booth if you're in the back chatting with your babysitter or things that you need to do. But the reality is having people in front of a booth really generates more of a crowd. And I can't emphasize that enough. So almost any business can benefit from a crowd of 250,000 people. I know that's a somewhat debatable subject, but I stand behind it. I think, you may not have the now item for sale that you want to target clients for the future, right? So flowers don't sell too well at the Solano Stroll. They're too fragile to carry around. The car's too far away. They have, where did my thing go? Yeah, so they carry things around, the car's too far away or too hot. But we recommend that flower shops on Solano put out a beautiful display that will attract attention and maybe hand out coupons. I mean, people are always looking for photo opportunities now. We have a business on Solano called Shoes on Solano, and she puts out a big red high heel that you can pose with, and it says Shoes on Solano on the side of it. I haven't seen her do that lately, but I know she has that thing. So always some sort of opportunity, something beautiful, something photo worthy. If you're the yarn store, a couple of kittens playing with a ball of yarn, who knows? Whatever the case is, people are anxious to take pictures and post things. Let's go ahead and give them something to take pictures and post. So yeah, one of the suggestions in the document, you can hold classes, you can do all kinds of things. There's tons of opportunities with coupons. There's tons of opportunities with digital coupons now. Of course, payments being, payment transactions have become a lot easier since 2019 with Venmo and Zelle and all those other things. So there's ways that you can market to those users as well once you capture their information at the event. So be inventive. Ask a friend if your booth plans, ask a friend if your booth plans sound appealing, or if your giveaway is worth stopping for. A considerable amount of freebies end up in the trash at the end of the day. So maybe you want people to earn or win their freebie. They'll more likely keep it. And so you can promote yourself now and in the future, whether you're selling flowers or mortgages. Though in some cases you will not have customers on the day of the Solano Avenue Stroll. But that does not mean you should ignore the potential for marketing your product or service to the future to a crowd of 250,000 / 100,000 Avenue guests. We don't have a lot of food vendors, so I'm just going to kind of brush over this real quick because bottom line is, if you're a food vendor, you need to keep your food affordable. Again, the families are 3 or 4 members in the family, 5, whatever. And some families travel together and they don't want one family to get one thing and the other kids don't, the situation. So here's fun. Here's a fun thing I'd like to point out before I have a couple more comments, and then we open it up for questions and have fun as a group. So Solano Avenue restaurants should have a simple outside menu. In fact, outside dining is preferred. The restaurants that do the best to set up tables outside on the street, the restaurants that do the best set up tables outside on the street after the parade passes. So here it is in 2012, folks. The Solano Avenue Association invented outside dining. You saw it here first. So that being said, I do have a couple of notes other than thanking the council for the event and Robert Abrams for sponsoring Strollish. I've noticed recently at a couple of events that I've been to where, and there's been quite a few of them, where someone will have a 4x8 table or some other fold up table, and it will be covered in material. I won't go into the many reasons why you would probably want to have some open space on that table. But the chamber and I both agree, we figure that a good amount of stuff on a good amount of information or anything really on a surface is about 50% information or products, goods, and then 50% bare table, especially if you're handing out documents like paper documents, flyers for something, etc. If you find that your organization does have 12 things that it needs to, communicate, maybe have 2 tables, maybe you get 2 booths, maybe have one table have just the program materials that are for one specific category of users, and another table that is, once you start talking to people and engaging with them, then it's, oh, well, here's some other stuff over at this other table. But I tell you, I've seen a lot of tables recently that are just covered in stuff. And I think that it does a disservice to focus what is probably best to have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 primary messages that you just want to get as people are walking by. And then once you kind of capture their attention and you're talking to them, then maybe direct them to the table that has a lot of other stuff. And you can go over them one by one and say, well, this is our Watch the Whale program. And then this is our Tahoe Save the Bay program and all that other stuff. But man, I have seen some tables absolutely covered in paper, and I do not recommend it for a lot of reasons. I love the fact, so before I open it up for questions, I just want to say that when I reviewed this document and saw that it was produced in 2012, I was shocked. I was like, we probably need to update this. I do want to address the 250 to 300,000 people, that kind of thing. But I did not want to do it until after this discussion with you. I have very little vending experience. Todd on this call, president of the Albany Chamber of Commerce, has a family business where he does a lot of vending at Comic-Con and things like that. I personally do not. And for the last 3 years, I've been personally avoiding crowds and not going to festivals. So the reason why I did not redo this document is I wanted to do it after we had this conversation, because I'm sure that you all have some great ideas, and I'm going to shut up and start listening to them. And unshare my screen.
All right, thank you, Alan. That's kind of our introduction and a lot of information. Again, I encourage you to download that document, and but also to ask your questions. We do have a question that's been submitted so far, and you're also welcome to, at this point, raise your hand and we can recognize you to speak. But Alan, are balloons permitted as a booth decoration?
So they are, but you will probably catch heck. Trader Joe's uses a balloon that is, I guess, organic or whatever the case is. I also know that, we have a helium controversy thing going on. So just be really delicate about the concerns, the environmental concerns of others. But yeah, we don't have the balloon police on patrol.
Great.
I'm going through my deck of cards. Sorry. I put them away correct. You know what I mean? I always put them away when they're ready to be.
Oh. You mean it's a trick? I thought it was magic.
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay. We do have another question here. We are a nonprofit choir who are not able to perform, but we do have a booth. Will there be power available for a digital projector to run a video of us on a screen? Can we solicit donations and offer free treats and t-shirts?
All of that's great, except for the power. So we would need to talk about the power. It's a real challenging thing because we have very little of it. Most of it's dedicated to bands. I will say, I was at Costco about 6 months ago. I know they're horrible to some people, but I go there occasionally, and they had a $500 what they called engineless generator. It's basically just a big battery pack. The battery technology these days has gotten to be incredible. And a flat screen TV actually generates or draws very little power, which is, why they're so efficient. So I would, before, if it's the one-off for this festival and you're looking for electricity, great. But if you're going to be doing this on a consistent basis and you're always going to want to use those resources, I would look into these $500, $600 solar generators. There's amazing technology out there, and we're all lucky enough to have a Harbor Freight store here in El Cerrito.
Okay. Thank you, Merchant Association Executive Director. All right, another question, then we have a hand raised. Let's see. I just wanted to just kind of underscore that you absolutely can solicit donations, and you can certainly offer free treats and t-shirts. Certainly, Alan mentioned that. I just wanted to underscore that. What are the guidelines on volume decibels? Boy, that's a good one. I like that question.
So Cal OSHA has a workplace, and it depends on if you're A weighted or B weighted, right? So we have a sound pressure level meter that we use for bands and that kind of thing. It's 90 decibels so the decibel rate changes based on the duration that you'll be exposed to the volume. It's a complex question, but rest assured we're out there. And I think even there's an iPhone app that's fairly accurate with the decibel level. But it's all revolving around the county health agency, and it's roughly between 90 and 80. But it also depends on duration. And
90 or 80 measured from where?
So a sound pressure level would probably be 3 feet. There are parameters around it that I can't remember. I will also say, for those of people that are attending the event that are hearing sensitive, all of our first aid stations will have earplugs.
And do you have suggestions for a vendor who maybe is finding the band across the street or next to them a little too loud for them to interact with their visitors?
Yeah, that's a problem. Now, usually those type, we don't position people too close to vans unless they've registered late, and an assortment of other things. But the day of the event, our phone number is active. So just call the association, 510-527-5358. We'll dispatch a block captain to talk to the band. It usually has to tell them to turn it down twice. Like the first time they go, they turn it down a little bit. And then next thing you know, the volunteer leaves and it gets turned up a little bit, and the volunteer has to go back and tell them to turn it down a little bit. So we know the procedure, and hopefully there'll be no interruptions.
Okay, we have somebody who's raised their hand. Forgive me, Mika or Micah, I will let you, let's see, allow to talk. And there you go. Please, you're on the air. You can ask your question.
Okay, I just have one question. In the past, the Solano Stroll also has had a shuttle running from the North Berkeley BART. Will that be happening again this year?
Absolutely. And we are, unfortunately, we used to have a magician actually at the North Berkeley BART station entertaining people while they waited, but he graduated high school and has moved out of the
So how often will they run?
It depends on the size of the crowd. We went from these very large buses that were for the most part empty in 2019 to a smaller shuttle bus that we expect in 2019 would be sufficient. We're guessing we're not going to have the crowd size that we did in 2019, which would mean that the buses rotate faster.
That the buses routine with what? I'm sorry.
So the buses would rotate faster if there's fewer people using them.
It won't take as long to make a circuit. They just do a circuit around and around. So it depends on how long it's going to take them. And how many are there? Like 2 shuttles that go around?
Three.
So there's 3 shuttles. So yeah.
Thank you.
No,
all right,
you're welcome.
Thanks for your question. All right, we've had a few more questions come in. Do the art vendors have to use tents? Can they use tables and umbrellas?
No, that would be great. I see no reason why not. I mean, yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think
it might be eye-catching. I mean, in a sea of canopies,
because everybody's going to have a tent, right?
Yeah, in a sea of canopies, an umbrella might be a nice change. All right, catch
I
your
think
eye.
it's also, it allows you to defend against the sun easier as well. You can move it, and anyway, great idea.
Yeah, nice idea.
Probably.
I would just emphasize that you do have a spot, and you should try to stay within that spot. But other than that, yeah.
And I would bet that an umbrella is easier to get branded than a $400 or $500 canopy that has your logo and everything on it.
Yeah, we've had a few questions in the chat. One of them is related to canopy. So let's jump to that before we continue.
Sure.
Our pop-up is 13 by 13.
So they should just contact me offline. The reality for this year's event is we have fewer participants.
Yeah.
Point blank. And the way that we've dealt with that is, and to maintain the character of the event, is we've spread everyone out. We've also spread everyone out for just distancing reasons. And so the reality is you probably don't have anybody next to you. And if that's the case, you're probably fine, but you should contact me on the side.
Yeah. I would emphasize contact Alan, because it's going to depend on where you're placed, and you
Yep.
don't want to get there that morning and find out your canopy is too large. So I would underscore that. And then just one more question related to canopies. Are they supposed to bring their own pop-ups, their own canopies?
Oh yeah. So we advertise that we provide the real estate on the ground and 100,000 smiling faces. So.
All right. Let me get back to Q&A. I see there's more questions in chat. I know some of the Q&A questions came in first, trying to roughly get them in the order asked, but trust that we'll all get to all of them. Can we schedule 1 or 2 acoustic music instructions at our booth? I'm not quite sure what music instruction means. So let me see. So Joan, I think I'm going to let you speak, and then maybe you can clarify. Did you agree, Alan? A little clarification might be in order on that one.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let me see if I can find Joan here.
Todd, you are doing a fantastic job at this.
I'm doing my best.
Hi,
All right,
thank
Joan,
you.
please. Yeah, please clarify. Thanks.
Yeah, we're with Freight and Salvage, and part of what we want to promote is the education program that we offer, which are musical courses. There may be a teaching artist or two that can come do like a fiddle instruction for 20 minutes or a guitar instruction for 20 minutes, and I'm wondering if that would be possible for us.
Well, let me put on my X-ray glasses.
They're not really X-ray glasses. You can't see.
I can't hear either. So you have some bands, you have a lot of music by you playing at 11, 12, 1, and 2. In theory, it'd be, well, I mean, also they're not really bands. Like the East Bay Center for Performing Arts are going to be vocalists, and they're not going to perform for the whole hour. I would say during downtime, that's not an issue.
Okay.
If the band's across the street, we're like, yeah, no, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Is there any way for them to
You'll know when
down?
the key is just look around at your neighbors, and if they're looking at you like, or doing this.
Yeah. So we'll get a schedule in advance then of what the set times for the other.
So if you look on your map in front of Andronico's, you'll see the bands that are performing. And if you just want to squeeze in some time in between, or if you do want to be put on the schedule, maybe someplace else at a different location, we can chat about that on the side.
Okay.
And usually there's.
But if it's just a violin or guitar, I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we have one band, play for an hour, and then another band nearby play for an hour, and another band nearby play for an hour at the most. A lot of bands, especially if they're vocalists, can't sing for that long.
Thank you.
Comfortably.
All right, thanks for your question. Thanks for clarifying. I'm still
Yeah.
learning this stuff here. Let me see.
This is really cool.
Let's see. Political parties. What are the guidelines on controversial social issues such as reproductive rights? There's a good one.
Yeah, I just watched a documentary on a TikTok, and what they considered to be a violation of their ethics, and they had something to the degree of like if 85% or 80% of the users feel, or some percentage, right, some sort of. I don't have an answer for you. The reality is there's your First Amendment right to express what you want. I think during the course of your First Amendment, you're not supposed to, threaten anyone individual, et cetera, et cetera. But I would just say obey the law, of course, and, exercise your good judgment. keep in mind, we do have a blacklist and we may not invite you in 2023. So all of those things considered, exercise your First Amendment right. Controversy puts people outside of their comfort levels. And if you come to the stroll and feel uncomfortable, you can probably walk away.
Great, thank you. Let's see. I had to scroll down.
I don't know if these answers are good or not, so I'm just, spewing these things out. I wish if you have a response to any of my answers, feel free. I don't want to be the.
Yeah. Okay. They sound good to me. How's that? So here's someone. I have 2 questions. We're a band that will not be playing until 3. Do we have to set up before the festival starts, or can we set up after the other band ends? Can we park our car on the street and leave our equipment there until setup? Can we put a 10 by 20 pop-up for our band in case of sun? You want me to do one at a time?
No, actually, those are all good questions. What's the name of the band?
They do not say. So this is Gene. I can let Gene join us. So Gene, I think that's your question.
Yeah, we're Midnight Kitchen. So we're up on Nielsen from 3 to 5.
The Tom Taylor corner.
Right.
So the great thing about that is the cross street there. So all the side streets are wide open. There are no vendors in the intersections. So what I'd recommend you do is approach Solano from the north on Curtis and park your car at the end of the street there and just unload, an hour or an hour and a half before you play. It's my understanding you're part of the other band that's there too.
No, we're not.
So that's why.
I think that was part of the confusion. We share a violinist, that's all.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the loading is going to be super easy and the street's going to be open. So I would not set up too early, and I'll see if I can. Oh, you're playing between 3 and 5, so that's a good set. Yeah, no, Curtis Street is going to be your best bet to unload.
Okay, thank you so much.
The other thing you could do, and I'm just throwing this out there to you, if you approach Solano from the south and go into the Safeway parking lot and do your monthly shopping for your groceries, you might be able to get away with parking in that lot for a while.
Ooh, brilliant idea.
I would recommend filling at least a grocery cart. So
it's fair enough.
You didn't hear that here.
No, that's fine.
I'm just recommending. All I'm recommending is Safeway customers park in their Safeway lot. That's all I'm saying. If you're a customer of Safeway, you can park in that lot.
Fair enough. And I'm it wasn't 10 by 20. It turns out I was the 13 by 13 pop-up.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
You've got a lot of space as a musician. As a band, we give you a lot of extra room.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, I think you've answered our questions.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. I see another one here. Is there a procedure for bringing a vehicle close to the setup point and unloading and then moving the vehicle after unloading?
Yeah. So basically what you want to do is pull onto Solano, sometime after 7 a.m., get as close as you can to your space, gently unload your vehicle, especially if you have metal pipes or anything that makes noise at 7 a.m. Gently unload your vehicle in your spot, have a volunteer, a friend of yours or whatever, stand there, or maybe a fellow participant. Everybody that comes to the Solano Stroll is friendly and nice. And then go park the vehicle as soon as you possibly can. So as soon as you drop everything, go and try to find parking as soon as you possibly can.
Very good. You've encouraged restaurants to put tables out after the parade has passed. What are the restrictions on where tables can go?
So, I mean, the fire department wants to keep the center of the street wide open for a lot of different reasons, the ambulance access and all those other things. So, but in terms of putting things outside of your assigned 10 by 10 foot space area, you would just have to ask me on the side, like, is it a specific thing? Is it something that a blind person could injure themselves on? It just depends on the circumstances. But in general, we try to ask you to keep all of your activity confined to your 10 by 10 foot space.
So if they're a restaurant on the avenue, they also have a 10 by 10 space in front of their business, and that's where they would set up. Well, 10 by 10, the frontage.
Yeah, no, I recommend, which restaurant is it? Do we know? Can we say?
Well, it's let's see, Yulee, Elser, Uli, Elser? I'm not sure.
Oh, that's
we could,
Squibbish, right? Squabbish.
yeah. Oh, there we go. Right. Of course.
Yeah. No, hit the front of his space is wide open.
Yeah. So yeah.
I always mispronounce that. I know I butchered that. I'm so sorry. It's Squibbish. It's
yeah. Here we can.
my brain is. I'm so sorry, Uri.
I think you mentioned this a minute ago. We'll just cover real quick again. How early can folks arrive for setup and then takedown? How late can they stay for takedown?
So we recommend people stay to the entire duration of the event for a lot of different reasons. When people start breaking down at 4, it distracts everyone. It creates a different feeling. I mean, we, as Midnight Kitchen can tell you, I lectured them on making sure that the last hour of the day is high energy. I always thought it was weird that when you left Disneyland and walked down the main street, they played like When You Wish Upon a Star. So like this kind of slow, depressing music. Like I've always thought you should end on a high note. And so in terms of breaking down, if you can stay until 5, great. If you can't, I mean, you're not going to be able to pull your car onto the street and start loading. We have the advantage of having, if you have the advantage of having a parking lot near you, like, Bank of America has a great parking lot. Wells Fargo has a great parking lot. Safeway, if you buy your groceries, then, things are close and you can maybe navigate that early exit. But for the most part, it's dangerous or unsafe to do so before 5 if you're trying to do that street.
Yeah, I would just clarify or just make it clear that the street is closed to everybody between 7 and 10, to traffic. So you're encouraged, in fact, you're supposed to bring your car on and unload between 7 and about 9:30-ish. About 9:30, they start saying, okay, time to get your cars off.
Yeah.
And it also gets hard because booths are set up, so it's harder to travel. So really, get there early, unload, get off, but you absolutely cannot be on the street after 10. And likewise, the street is closed until 5. So you cannot bring your car back onto the street until after 5. Between 5 and 6 is when you're allowed to bring your car on and unload or pack up and get out.
The number. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The number one question.
Move on to the next question.
Yeah, there's the number one question I think I get, aside from when's the stroll, is what time can we set up? Point blank. Very, and I get it. And we say you can set up at 7. You're obviously going to start greeting people at 10. The earlier there, the more people you'll see. But the earlier there, the easier you'll find parking. You'll find, you'll have a chance to run up and get that cup of coffee. I'm amazed that no one does mobile coffee service on Solano, but I guess it's because we have so many coffee shops. But just getting there early is even though it physically takes an hour to set up or a half hour to set up even, I recommend getting there as early as possible for an assortment of reasons.
And just a quick question, then somebody's had their hand raised for a while. I'm going to jump to them, but I'd just like to confirm the average real estate for a nonprofit table is 10 by 10, but you're saying it could be larger because of fewer number of participants. They're talking about the Oakland Jazz Choir. Is it possible to kind of put them in a place they could have extra space?
I think they might already be. So the key to our maps is that everything in light gray is technically available. And the Oakland Jazz Choir, on that case, I would probably move them across the street to the front of that business called Soda Voce, who's closed on Sundays. Because there's 2 spare spaces in front of 1845 Solano Avenue. And if the Jazz Choir wants to be there, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
So, but they should arrange that before. They shouldn't just set up.
Oh yeah, let me know.
They should have
Send me an
confirmation.
email now, and I'll make the change tomorrow, and you'll be good to go.
And we did have a question about posting this association email and phone. I'm wondering, Jennifer, maybe you can post that to the chat because I'm kind of got my hands full. All right, we're going to go to Anastasia, forgive me, and she's had her hand raised for a while. Thank you. You may speak now, I believe. Yes.
May speak now.
Okay, you guys can hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so in the frequently asked questions, it says to keep literature distribution and clipboard activity behind your table. Since I'm going to be doing like some fitness demonstrations within my booth, I was planning on having my table to the side of the booth. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay, cool. And then I wrote this also in the Q&A, so just ignore it.
Okay, great. Thank you. No, good question. Sorry it took so long to get to you.
No problem.
All right, I'm going to jump down to the Q&A. We've had some questions there for a while. Per your experience, do you have ideas how a service like photography can be successful at the Stroll? I could attempt to collect emails for future marketing, could sell packages at a discount. How have other businesses had success at the Stroll? This is coming from someone you know, Shuey Sandell.
So I remember when Shuey did the photo booth a while ago. I thought that was an amazing thing. But that's a good question. I think the photo booth that she did back in the day was an awesome idea, because I think at the time, Shuey, you were taking pictures of the kids, but not giving them to the kids. You're getting their parental contact information, and I believe engaging then with their parents post-event. But I would, one of the things that we do on Solano Avenue in the wintertime is a free photo opportunity with Santa Claus. And it's every winter. We've been doing it for a long time, and it's amazing the number of people who want to take a picture with Santa, and they use their own phones. In the past, we've taken pictures for them. So obviously there's pictures being taken. How to market it off of it or capitalize off of it, I'd have to give it some thought. I do know that you do portraits. You did my headshot, which was great. So one of the things, I'm going to transgress here for a second. I was talking to, I guess it's not confidential, New York Life Insurance. So they're going to be setting up in front of Wells Fargo, and the gentleman, Arun, was asking me, what would you do if you were me? And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea. I guess the first thing that just came to my mind, and I think I believe this with all types of business, is to go after a specific customer. So in the New York Life instance, I was like, maybe you should give life insurance quotes to emergency, first responders or essential service workers, or maybe just a specific audience. You're out there today helping single moms get life insurance coverage because things have changed since your family situation changed. Whatever the case is, to go after a specific demographic. Jennifer Hansen Romero, who's a real estate agent, who's the volunteer president of the association, who's on this call, is a real estate agent. And I told her a long time ago, if I were you, I would specifically do real estate, because there's a lot of real estate agents out there. Maybe consider doing real estate specifically for people who have disabilities, for people who are differently able, right? So people who are wheelchair bound may have different needs for their housing. People who are sight challenged may have different needs for their housing. Someone who's hearing challenged doesn't care if they live next to BART. So maybe there's, in terms of the photography, maybe it's, I have an offer doing, headshots in this area. And then I'm also doing headshots in Piedmont in this week. And I'm doing headshots in Kensington in this week. And I'll do it in your home, something like that. I'm just speaking out loud. I don't want to bore everybody on this call with my trial balloons, but I think that you and I can take this offline and probably figure out something. But I do like the idea of any business and all businesses just throwing out there that you have a specialty in something. Today, it works well for the cheese board, right? Their specialty of the day is the only pizza for the day. And to a degree, that system of hey, this decision is simple for you if you want this pizza. I'm going to make this decision simple for you if you're looking for a headshot and you live in Kensington and you're available on Friday, September, whatever, when that week when you're doing Kensington, and the week after when you're doing this area, and the week after you're doing Piedmont. And I bet you that'd be a way of people also feeling pressure of oh, I live in Piedmont, I could sign up for that week. You're going to be there then. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I think that's valuable comments, and I would say that something similar would apply to just about any service business. It's going to be a hard time to make a lot of business at the Stroll for most service businesses. So you're really trying to farm and to create future customers. We have yeah, go ahead.
No, so we're also in a weird situation where we're still in the residue of a pandemic. So what does that mean for, in terms of photography? Well, you're a real estate agent and your last headshot was done in 2018. Or when's the last time you've updated since the pandemic your maybe even there are people out there who need pictures of their personal property for, to make an insurance claim later. I think a lot of people, maybe not just faces is what I'm saying, maybe cars, maybe, jewelry, I don't know. I'm just speaking out loud.
We have a specific question. Can the Albany Berkeley Soccer Club have a soccer ball and small goal for kids to play next to their booth?
Yes. So I believe they are at Masonic and Solano, correct? And their booth is physically in front of Merit Cleaners. And the way that I envisioned it is that they could set up like a little goal or something in the street, in the key route, which is, obviously right there next to Solano. And yeah, that's fine. If you see a fire engine coming down the street or anything with red lights or blue lights coming down key route towards Solano, move the soccer goal and get out of the way.
I mean, I might add that it's very likely we're not going to have the same amount of carnival-like attractions that we've had in the past. And so your soccer goal for kids might get a lot more activity than you otherwise might anticipate. So be prepared. It could be a big one. Here's a question. Are we allowed to leave some equipment on the sidewalk if they need more space?
So as long as there's the standard 48 inches of ADA clearance on the sidewalk between any sort of pole, street fixture, bike rack, a street accessory, trash can, anything, and then the facade of the nearby building. So just a general 48-inch clearance. As long as somebody in a wheelchair with a dog next to them can get around whatever you've got there, we're good.
Yeah, people do, just for those who may not have participated in the stroll before, people do walk between the businesses and the booths as well. So you do need to leave that space open, and if nothing else, for emergency purposes. Let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions at this point. So I see, okay, here's a question. I'm going to allow Heather Fawn to speak. There you go. You're on. You may speak, Heather.
Hi, great meeting. Lots of great questions, and I really appreciate this. I'm the managing director of the Oakland Jazz Choir. And my main question at this point is, because you've answered most of them now, is how do I get in touch with you, Alan, by phone? Because I should probably know by tonight whether we want to move our spot across the street to make it a larger spot.
I'll give you the phone number right now. I'll give you time to find something to write. The other thing too is prior to the stroll, we send out an email specifically with just our phone number in the subject line for the day of the event. Our phones are active. This time 5 years ago, we would say, good luck getting a hold of us the day of the stroll, but we've, learned how to navigate technology and some other things. So we'll be available the day of the event, of course. But yeah, prior to that, you can call me at 510-527 5358, and in general the best time to reach me is 10 to noon in general.
Thank you.
But I'm a full-time staff member around all day.
Thanks a lot.
No, thank you.
And the email and phone number has been added to the chat as well, so if anybody needs that, you can always find it on the website as well. Right. Of course. All right, any other questions, folks? This is a real opportunity.
So I'm going to let you just kind of take a look at to scan the room. And I will mention something that I don't know if it's in my notes or something. I need to mention it again or whatever the case is. I have noticed a large trend of people having tablecloths with their organization name on the front of it. And I don't know where I discussed this in the document, but it's the importance of having your signage up high, not, dangerously waving in the wind kind of high. But it's also, when you do have a tablecloth with your organization name on it that no one can see if someone's standing in front of your table, what you're saying is that you're assuming no one's going to be standing in front of your table and that you're going to brand that empty space. And I say, have that signage high. Keep everything as high as you can. If there's people standing at the booth, you want to keep that in mind and have the signage above them. Because hopefully, in theory, there will always be someone standing in front of your space, even if it's your own staff acting as decoys. Even if it's your own staff acting as decoys or just standing in front talking to each other, that attracts other people. And so the high signage out there, assuming that people will be in front of your booth.
What about having somebody stand out in the middle handing out leaflets or something?
So I, as a event producer, have to dislike it by by nature, because if everybody, it's one of those rules. I forget what the name is that you say, Todd. The moral
categorical imperative. It's con.
Yeah. So if everybody did it, what would the world look like, right? You'd walk down the street and it's like, oh, this, and I've walked down. I remember in the '80s. When I walked down Telegraph Avenue, when Domino's or all those pizza places were going, they were handing you coupons left and right. Blondie's had one, Fat Slice had one, and guess where they all went? On the ground. So, I would recommend just being, handing things to people who make eye contact, who seem to be within your, your demographic. Just do so, with good judgment, I guess, and keeping the environment in mind, that you as a business owner don't want your trademark or your brand on the ground being stepped on. I know I wouldn't.
Are there restrictions on kind of environmental concerns, like what you can use to hand or what you can hand out? Does it have to be recyclable? Does it have to be compostable? Restaurants?
I mean, we don't specifically have requirements for our vendors unless you are a food vendor. If you're a food vendor, we do have specific requirements that are imposed by the city of Berkeley and Alameda County. That being said, everyone at the Stroll, given the state of Instagram, given the state of Nextdoor and all the social media spots that allow you to express your grunts in seconds and in a public way, I would do whatever you can to make sure that you don't give that individual an opportunity to go, well, here's the Sierra Club and they're using, unrecyclable glossy
UV coated
pamphlets, so just kind of keep all that stuff in mind. Again, we're not going to have the balloon or recycling police out there. Unless you're a food vendor, got to be responsible.
Unless you're a food vendor. Right.
I did just add kind of a little quick message about that into the chat. So do try to think sustainably, and please remember, whatever you bring into the event, we expect you to take it out with you. Our drains, they do drain to the bay, so we want to be conscientious of not letting any debris get into our storm drains. So. And
every time
also, the city of Berkeley does is encouraging a plastic-free event as far as food vendors, but also just try to think responsibly in that aspect. Thanks.
And there's always, 3-channel, so there's compost, recycling, and garbage available. So if you have something to compost, throw it in the compost bin. Don't just throw it in the trash. Yeah. Camping
rules, clean it, leave it cleaner than you found.
Oh, so speaking of taking things you brought, what if you forget something and leave it behind? Is there a lost and found?
I don't know.
What should they do if they lose something?
Depends on what it is. Cash?
What it is.
What are we talking about?
I'm thinking in particular, I'm thinking of a few years ago, people left canopy weights. They just left some canopy weights.
Oh, I remember when someone lost a parrot.
A parrot.
That white cockatoo or whatever that thing was. It was a very expensive bird. So California Bank and Trust is a financial institution at 1451 Solano Avenue. It's mid-festival. It's Santa Fe, across from what was the old Supercuts, and that acts as our lost and found. Oddly enough, we don't declare anything lost or really anything found until about 2 weeks after the festival, because what will happen is city staff will have something from that day, or a business owner will have something that day, and it takes a while for it to work its way to us. But we have found some amazing things at Solano. The guests and residents of the area are extremely honest. We have found wallets. We've had people turn in wallets of cash and just all kinds of stuff. And I know that was a long answer to your question, but that's how I am.
And if they find, so for instance, we did a booth last week and somebody left their prescription glasses in our booth. This was a very small event. It was very clear who to give it to, but if they can't make it up to California Bank and Trust, what should they, do you have any suggestions?
So yeah, the block captains call us, we'll come pick it up. And, there's been instances where people have lost, and I know I carry a USB keychain with some pretty, important information on it. Big and small, people panic when they lose their phones or their reading glasses, and please do, contact the association, have us pick it up. or whatever, or give it to a block captain. But yeah, we have an extensive lost and found. The worst one's children, but hey, we'll talk about that later.
And definitely call for help then. Yeah, that's we got a whole staff for that. All right, any questions? I think you've answered everything that I'm aware of. Now is your chance.
I just want to remind everybody to also share on social media, on your social media channels. Make sure that you get the word out that the stroll is back. There's a lot of people still confused about that. We are having a strollish the day before, which is our sidewalk event type deal for merchants on Solano, but the Sunday event, the streets are closed and the stroll is back. And please definitely, if you want to see, I'm seeing on the chat images or logo, go onto the website. We do have our images and logo there that you can share. Also, if anybody is interested in volunteering or have some young teenage kids looking for some volunteer work for their school or something like that, you can contact us because we'll have miscellaneous little things, details that need to get done prior to the event or the day of the event as well. So.
Alan, do you remember where the logos and things would be available on the website?
Resources / privacy. So of the 5 main navigation tabs, there's resources, privacy, and our logo is there. But on the Solano Stroll homepage is wording that you can use. We also have an event invitation that went live about 2 or 3 months ago. I think like 50 people are coming to it, unfortunately, because but yeah, it's you know, our social, I can't emphasize or understate what Jennifer just said in terms of our social media. We'll be, you know, at this point, 30 days out from the event, blasting it out. Todd, how many people are on this call?
Right now, there's 28.
28.
We had 35 at the peak.
Okay. I'm going to stick my neck out. Why not? You can fire me later. So we have, I just want to,
I can mute you, you know.
I want to reward everyone for sitting through and sharing this time with us over the last hour and a half. We do have our Solano Stroll sponsors reception and kickoff party. It is an event. It's at Mechanics Bank in Albany at 801 San Pablo. It's at Washington and San Pablo in Albany. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. If you'd like details, email me. But I'm personally inviting almost 30 of you, and I'll get in trouble for this later, to this event. We'll have lots of food from Solano Avenue businesses. We have a very high-tech 3D photo booth coming. It should be a lot of fun, and it's a free dinner, essentially. We've got hors d'oeuvres from Solano Avenue restaurants, and here is my personal invitation to you for sharing the last hour and a half with us.
Can you repeat the details, and I'll add it to the chat?
Yeah, it's 801. So Mechanics Bank, our sponsor, Mechanics Bank Albany, which is at 801 San Pablo Avenue. It's at Washington and San Pablo in Albany. And it's from 5:30 to 7:30. We will have a high-tech 3D photo booth. You can meet us in person. We will be drinking lots of red wine, responsibly, of course. And it'd be nice to kind of hang out with you folks and talk about my favorite subject, which is the stroll.
All right. Well, I can't think of a better way to end it. That's August 11th. So that's a
dang.
Thursday.
Oh snap! Yeah, totally. August 11th. It's
August
next.
11th,
It's not tomorrow. A week from tomorrow. So yeah,
that's right.
Week.
That's right.
It's not a transferable invitation. Don't tell any friends.
And I will remove this part from the chat transcript until after next week. All right, everybody. I thank you for participating. Thank you so much, Alan, for your information. Thank you, Jennifer, for your support and your help. And I think we will say goodnight. And again, recording of this will go up on the websites next week. Thanks so much.
Todd, you did a great job. Thank you so much
you,
for
Todd.
acting as Houston / Albany control. And we'll see you all.
We have a problem, but that could still happen.
We'll see you all Thursday, August 11th at 5:30. I look forward to meeting you all face to face.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.